The importance of city planning, community building, and historical preservation, plus kickball commentary and a rap group consisting of only 2 hype men and no actual rapper. All that and more today on The Number 2 Show. Welcome back to The Number 2 Show. I'm your host, Rafe Williams. I appreciate all you fans out there, the Bow Patrol, the Pinch-A-Loafers, the whatever we're going to call you, I don't know. The pee-pee boys, pee-pee girls. I don't like that. Never mind, we're not doing that. But I don't know if I'll ever settle on what it is. I'm excited. I appreciate you guys being here. I got an awesome pod set up for you, too. Gave Riz the day off, but guess what? Don't need him today. No offense, Riz, but I got a very special guest that I'm very excited to have on. An influencer, a real estate agent, and a podcaster, an aficionado of all things St. Louis, and every city should be so lucky to have a man like this. Please welcome to the program, David Lemon.
Cheers. That's a really, really good intro.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to take you with me everywhere, Rafe.
Hey, dude, honestly, I don't think I'm interested in being the main attraction, but I like being a hype man. I think that seems like a good job for anyone to have because I feel like they don't have to do a whole lot.
I feel the same way, though, so I think we're stuck in a bind here. So we need a third person that we can both.
Or we find that perfect niche where there's 2 hype men who keep hyping each other up and no actual rapping happens.
Right. So I think we just discovered what the podcast is.
Yeah, dude. It's just an hour being like, what? Y'all ready?
Yeah.
David Lemon in the house.
Just doing a bunch of sidestepping.
Like, oh, yeah, dude. Just getting the crowd completely whipped into a fever pitch, and then our time is up, and we just exit stage left and let the main act come on.
It's a bunch of peeking and walking across the stage.
Yes, that's it.
Left to right.
That's it. You disappear behind the curtain, I hype you up. You come out, I disappear. We keep that little mirage going long enough. Boom.
I feel like that will be a bit in and of itself. I feel like it's good enough. That'll pass.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think we can get away with it.
But thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for doing it. For those of you that don't know, David is a local St. Louisan. This is where I film the podcast here at Hubbard Radio in St. Louis, Missouri. You are, I'm a fan of yours, and I reached out to you to have you come on the show because I'm a little bit. I think everyone should have. You have your own pod. It's called the Overarching Podcast, and it's about all things St. Louis. And feel free, give me the spiel. Because tell me, how long have you been doing your pod?
So the podcast originated as an audio-only show. Now it is both we've got all formats. So video, audio. It's on YouTube, and we'll be live streaming this year as well. This season started in 2018 from my house. My roommate and I, my best friend Bradley, we were just. We like to talk about city politics. We like to talk about city infrastructure, landscape architecture, really, really niche things that we knew there were other people in the city that wanted something like this. We only had a few hundred listeners, but we did it for fun. We did it for fun, and we didn't care one bit. We took a break because I started a new business in real estate. I became a realtor, and I had to get that going. And starting your own business, takes time, takes a lot of time and money.
Sure.
Had a kid, and that took me away from a lot of stuff too.
What year was that you took a break?
The beginning of 2022.
Okay.
Well, we took a break right before that because I knew I was transitioning into other things. So we stopped.
Sure.
In 2021.
And you told me before we got on the air, you got your degree. Because you guys are great on the pod. I'm a fan of the pod. I'm a fan of everything you do. And you're great in your videos online. And we'll get to that in a second. But you said you got your degree in sports broadcasting.
Yes. One of my dreams as a kid was not to be a baseball player, but to talk about baseball vehemently.
You wanted to be the Uke.
I just wanted to hear I did. Bob Uecker, man, rest his soul. Icon and silky voice, man. Just the best storytellers in the world. I think there is a type of person, the Vince Scullys, the Jack Bucks.
Oh yeah.
That are the best storytellers in the world. I think baseball allows for storytelling because it has space, right? Baseball has lots of space naturally. So I feel like there is an art form where it's it's almost stand-up comedy through storytelling for many people. And I feel like that was Bob Uecker to a T. You know, he'd go on Johnny Carson all the time, right? So he was a stand-up comedian of sorts.
Oh, yeah. If you saw his Hall of Fame speech, it's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. So, go look up his Hall of Fame speech. Incredible. He has multiple for inductees as well.
Yeah. I just remember specifically the one where he's like, me and my dad wasn't much of a ball. We got a football. We must have thrown that thing around, and he's like, I couldn't throw it, I couldn't kick it, I couldn't pass it. Then we had a neighbor nice enough to come over with an air pump and air it up for us. And I'm just like, there we go. That's some vaudevillian timing to Uecker.
Throw off the hunch, right?
And don't think I didn't watch Mr. Belvedere, my friend, because I did. Okay, and
classic.
Who makes the jump from sports broadcasting to sitcom if you don't have comedy chops?
Yeah, you have to have the chops first. Yeah, you're right.
So how do you transition from wanting a career in sports? Did you pursue that at all?
I did. So I did some play-by-play and broadcast work for the Bowling Green Hot Rods the summer of 2013.
I have a hot rod tattoo.
Oh, do you?
Not from the Bowling Green.
Just a regular hot rod.
Just drunk on Mad Dog 2020 at 17. Forged my dad's signature and got Rowdy Roddy Piper's hot rod on my arm, never thinking that I would someday be grossly out of shape and old.
The best thing about Mad Dog is it's like Gatorade. Like the flavors are just the colors.
Yeah, it's like Gatorade for domestic abuse.
Dear God, that's why it's called Mad Dog.
That's right. You turn into a Mad Dog. It's a Gatorade for needing a lawyer.
Ooh, lawyer Gatorade. Yeah, okay. I could get into that. Yeah, right. we did blue Mad Dog in college.
Yeah, Banana Red was, for some reason, the grossest one, but the one that was my first throw up. That was my first liquor throw up.
Yeah, the throw up was the best part because then you knew what that person was drinking that night.
That's right.
You know what flavor they were going.
So you were calling play-by-play.
Yeah, Blake Snell was there. 2-time Cy Young winner Blake Snell was there at the time, so called some of his games, and he definitely does not remember who I am. But super nice dude, super weird dude. But you have to be a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Yeah. That was fun. That was during my college years. So came back to St. Louis and did some technical work during game day for the Billikens at Chaffetz.
Okay. Cool.
Didn't do play-by-play, but did camera work, instant replay. Sat in on like TD, technical direction, for a couple times. That was fun. I really love the back end of sports and the broadcast production side of things. And also was a historian and tour guide for the Cardinals at that same time. And
tour guide where at stadium?
At Busch, and the museum. So would give tours of the stadium and tours of the museum. Talk about artifacts as well with a bunch of kids, and that was such a awesome job. And I wanted to find a way to work in with the Cardinals, and I didn't see myself there actually for a long time after getting in there. It's like, sports, it's really tight knit, and it's dog eat dog. And I knew people there, and that's how you get in there, is if you know people there. But that's the only way you get in. It's such a tight knit thing. But I
get it. I interviewed for the On Ice Blues job.
Oh, yeah.
A couple years before Carly Lawrence got it, whenever Angela was out. And made it very far in the process, and they're like, well, we like your personality. And
well, we like your personality. That just means no. You know that?
No, what happened was I made it to the final. Not a huge hockey fan.
Sure.
I know that's like, I grew up, I told you earlier, I grew up in a town of 500 people. We had the three mainstream sports. We were looking at you could play basketball, baseball, and football, and I played all three. And if you wanted to do track, your family your family had to pay for it, but you could use the school's name. So basically, like,
so it's club.
Basically it was like, your dad has to buy you a javelin if you want to. And I was like, I don't know, my family doesn't have javelin money. All right, we don't have pole vault money. So it was either run cross country or say no to track.
Yeah, I feel like
I didn't know a lot about hockey.
Well, that's an expensive. That's the thing, is it just becomes such a hard thing to get into because it's a monetary limit in the first place.
It is, and like when you don't follow hockey, you're probably not going to be super well versed. I just remember going into like the final selection process. I had bullshitted my way into like the final, down to me and like one other guy.
Yeah,
and they started asking me hockey questions and making me pronounce Russian last names, and I was like, I am blowing this so bad.
Man, all you got to know is like something NOV or SKY or SKI or something like that. You're good to go.
I tried to mumble my way through it. I'll be like, oh, you talking about a Bruska Biscuit? Yeah, I know. Of course, he's great.
Lots of S's, lots of K's.
Kidding me? Ushkashkevich? Yeah.
That's one of SNL's better sketches, is when they have Chance the Rapper on and they like look at the back of hockey players' names. It's like an S and a K and a J and a Y. And he's like, I'm just gonna I'm not going there.
So I understand that like being in that environment, especially when you get to the pro level, man, it's like,
yeah, it's tough. I got myself out of it because I knew at that point, like a year and a half after college, a couple years after college, that it just wasn't going to be a good play for me. I wasn't in it for the money, and I'm definitely not doing like overarching or anything I do in that realm for the money at all, because there's no money there. But it's one of those things I didn't want to do it as a job. It didn't feel that way anymore. I would have lost the love, the love of sport. And I feel like I've actually come to appreciate sport itself a lot more because of not being in it professionally.
That's an interesting thing, man, because that happened to me in college football. I got into, went to Eureka College in Peoria for football and baseball, and like NAIA just moving to Division III when I was there. They were making the transition to D3, and I just remember like being like halfway through my freshman football season and being like, this sucks. Like, that's not, I started to understand, when you're in high school, it's all about camaraderie and team building, and we're doing this thing together. We're the Mighty Ducks. And then,
you've got buddies from the same neighborhood and all that.
And you get to college, and every year they're bringing someone in to replace you. They're hoping that this kid they got that was an all-state kid out of Tuscaloosa or Tuscola or wherever the hell, somewhere in the middle of Illinois, is like gonna pan out and take your spot. And I started to realize, like, oh, this is like a business. Like, these coaches are all college coaches who want to coach D1, and the D1 guys want to go pro. And
it's all a funnel, man.
Yeah, and you start to realize that I'm like, I liked. It wasn't the going to the NFL that was important to me. It was like I liked the community.
Yeah, and that's what most of this all boils down to, is the people that you're doing it with, right?
100%, and which is which kind of takes me to the thing that I find super valuable about what you're doing, which I think community building. Like, I also got my master's degree in public administration, and so I'm kind of a city planning nerd myself.
Yes, let's get into it, man.
So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk community building now that we got to know David a little bit. And we'll be back after a quick word from our sponsors. And we're back with David Lemon. Welcome back, David. Thanks for being on the show.
I feel like this conversation is going to be very fun, knowing your background a little bit more about like landscape architecture.
Oh, dude, let me tell you something.
We'll get deep into it.
Oh, don't worry. I'm about to.
We might lose some people.
Well,
we'll keep them base level.
Then turn it the fuck off if you don't like it. This is my podcast, and I'm about to nerd out with my new friend. So if you're not a ceiling light slut like me, if you don't want to talk about mid-century modern and American Gothic homes, then fucking turn it off.
Yeah. If you don't like Second Empire, why are you in St. Louis?
Exactly. If you don't want to talk about community building and historical preservation in the city that you live in, using St. Louis as the base model, well, then guess what, my friend? You're in the wrong place.
We just got so niche. Yeah.
And now we're alone.
Yeah.
And we can talk about whatever we want.
Cool. I'm really happy about that.
No, one of the things we were talking about before the break, dude, we kind of talked about both. You came through sports broadcasting. You found out, like, this wasn't really the passion I thought it was. Mm-hmm. Your passion for sports came more about, like, the community that it provides and less about working at, being in middle management at Busch Stadium or, wherever you may end up.
Yeah.
And that led you to what you do now, which is you're a realtor.
Yeah, there was a few years in between there where I
Sure.
was at a sales company and a video production team there. So about 5 years in between all that. Just kind of holdover stuff. I was always doing creative stuff on the side. That just kept me going. It was personal things, right?
100%.
But you know, when you're in your young mid-20s, you feel you feel a little lost with jobs at that point. Anyways,
sure.
With the background that I had, I didn't have a lot of direction. It was just it was content in the bad way, you know.
Oh yeah.
Sitting on your ass and just feeling comfortable with where you were. And it didn't feel like it was me for 5 years. And I met my wife, who definitely encouraged me to, you know, she really pushed me to follow my passions and my creative processes. And now she's really upset that I did that because, she sees me way less. But
that's what she's telling you.
Yeah.
That's the story. She's like, I hate it, honey.
Yeah.
I wish that you were home way more anyway. Go sell that house.
Yeah, it's true though. But no, I'm way happier doing real estate.
Yeah, man. And how old are you?
33.
Yeah.
33.
Perfect age, dude.
I feel good.
Perfect age. Think of all.
It's the Jesus year, man.
Yeah, it is. And that was the year I got sober. My Jesus year was like, man, I got to get off the sauce so I could, and that's the year I started comedy, is at 33. I'm like, Jesus had already been born and died, and I'm just now getting into an ageist business. What could go wrong? Well, it worked out, man. Here I am. You know, it's like, I think a big lie that young people, or maybe the world tries to force on young people, is that you're supposed to know what the fuck you're doing in your 20s.
Oh yeah, my dad's retired and he still doesn't know what he wants to do with his life.
Right.
He did the same job for his entire career, basically, at the same place here in St. Louis.
Right.
And now he's in musical theater. Like, he does that for fun. He's like an amateur actor now in a Floridian community. Yeah.
Is it the what's the one down
the Villages?
Yeah, is it the Villages?
No.
That was a great documentary. Was your dad in the Villages, dude? You want to talk about city planning? They planned.
Well, it's so funny how
those old people are getting it on down there, man.
Yeah,
it's pickleball and boning out
and pineapples.
That's it. Man. Pickleball and pineapples.
Pickleball and pine.
Write that down. Podcast episode.
We have to find a third
Pickleball
P.
Pineapples with David Lemon.
But yeah, that's funny how people in retirement, the dream, the American dream, is actually like to go on vacation to these places that are walkable and bikeable, and it's like, no. Those are things that you want in your daily life. That's why you're going there, is because you're trapped in a car-centric society.
That's right.
There we go. There's some
deal with it.
There's some stuff for you. But no, they live down there, and yeah, he's an amateur actor now, and he loves it. He's super good, man. I'm really proud of my dad.
What kind of productions are they doing?
He's doing My Fair Lady right now.
Whoa!
Yeah, he's Mr. Pickering, Colonel Pickering.
There it is. Pickleball, Pickering, and pineapples. We found the P.
We found the third P.
Didn't take long.
Yeah, he's really good, man. It's like the second largest community theater in America.
I believe
it. In terms of like endowment, because we have retired Floridians. What are they going to do with their money?
Right.
Put it towards the arts. That's what they're going to do.
Thing they should have done while they were earning it their whole life.
Yes, exactly.
It really comes full circle.
Holding on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holding on in a capitalist society while the arts wither and die on the vine around you. And now on your way out, you're trying to resuscitate the arts. So good for them.
It's so funny how in like these areas of states that don't have income tax that retirees move to have arts more than other states. And it's like, well, yeah, because the retirees moved there. Mm-hmm. That's one of those connections you don't make until somebody brings it up, you know?
Well, congrats. What's your dad's name?
John Lemon.
John Lemon. Hey, if you're a casting producer and you're watching this, check out John Lemon. Maybe you got a part for him. This guy's doing My Fair Lady. He's not booked.
Yeah. He doesn't have an agent. He's not represented.
He'll work for scale. Let's get John Lemon in a movie.
People used to call him John Lennon all the time because the M.
I almost did it just now. Did you feel it? It almost came out.
It's yeah.
I thought I covered it pretty well, honestly.
His profile picture is a picture of a lemon with the John Lennon glasses on it.
Nice.
He's a very original, very dad jokey.
And you know what? I'm here for it.
He's a good dude. Love you, Dad.
Love you, John. So one of the things we talked about before the break, dude, is like I think community building is super important, and you have really leaned into that. As part of the St. Louis community, man, like you're all over the place. Like you've found a niche on Instagram. As I love your, because I'm a big architecture slut. You want to talk lighting and ceilings with me? I'll get horny, dude.
Yes.
And like I became. Did you find that? And check out anyone who doesn't follow David, either the pod or his real estate. It's David. It's at David Lemon Realtor online, and he kills it, man. He goes into these houses and gives you like a quick tour, and it's funny and it's informational, and you actually get to see the house. Because sometimes when you look on Zillow, I'm like, this is some bullshit. This is good angles, and then you go to the open house, and you're like, this place is tiny.
Yeah, those wide-angle lenses get you, man.
They do get you. So when you go in, you actually get to kind of see in real time what a house looks like, which I love. And you do a great job explaining the architecture and the history behind it and all that stuff, and it's super entertaining, and you're great at it. So.
Thank you, man. Yeah, my architectural lore is lesser than somebody who is an actual architect, but I'm familiar with the baseline, right?
Yeah, but that's great. You're speaking, it's like, what's the old Mark Twain adage? He's like, all the great writers are like fine wine. I'm like water. Everybody drinks water.
Yes.
And
yeah,
that's what you're doing. You're giving, it's relatable, and I can understand what you're saying. And as I'm dipping my toe into caring about these things, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's great. Because I got to tell you, man, I am curious. Did you feel like when did you got into realty in 2022?
Yes, the start of 2022.
Do you feel like I feel like there was a shift 2020, 2021 where Zillow became pornography.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
Due to the pandemic.
The pandemic really, there's the Zillow Gone Wild account that really kind of was at the forefront of that. There were a few other accounts that really did it, but just from the picture side of things. Yeah, it became this it really took off when interest rates went down to like 2.5% at some point, and everybody was like, oh, I can start actually affording to buy a home. Turns out you couldn't, because everybody was offering like 15 to 20 offers on a home at that point in time. So you really didn't have a shot.
It was insane. I know one person who got a good deal during the pandemic, and it was my friend sold his house and got in on an estate sale, put in a low ball offer and got it. And like that's
estate sales were like the only way to do it.
It was the only way. And it was like somebody was looking to go liquid pretty fast, and he was buying like a second home that the person owned. And so they didn't care that much about it. They just wanted the cash to liquidate. Other than that, everybody pretty much took a bath.
Yeah.
But we all got so sick of being inside.
Mm-hmm. We did. And honestly, that's where I always had real estate knowledge, even before my 5-year stint at a sales and marketing company. I worked with a lot of realtors and brokers while I was there as some clientele. Had good relationships with them. I invested on my end, bought a couple properties, got familiar with the law and the weird St. Louis laws. Through real estate, it's actually quite easy to get your license in Missouri comparatively to other states in the country. Yeah, it's in my opinion, anyways, it's quite easy. But yeah, there's way too many realtors out there, man. At one point, there were more realtors.
Yeah. This was like 2022. It does feel like Missouri. Be like, you like houses?
Yeah,
yeah. You ever lived in a house? Yeah. All right, here's your license.
yeah. Dude, but California has like hundreds of hours to get your license.
There's probably so much HOA.
Oh, yeah. There's so much law that you have to learn out there.
Yeah.
But in Missouri, it's like 1/3 of that.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that is an extreme, if not like the most extreme example, like them in New York, where real estate and like air rights go to die.
But I think you do a good job, like keeping track of some of the historical stuff in the city, and like because St. Louis is and to relate this on a national level, every city should have a guy like you that knows the history of the city, that understands the city planning and why things were built, how neighborhoods came to be, how they've changed over the years, what original intentions for structures were. Like, that's all super interesting to me. I just saw Walton Goggins, the actor, he bought an old, and he seems like a weird guy, but a cool guy you'd want to hang out with. And he bought an old 1923 cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and it used to have it has a speakeasy in it from the 20s, from Prohibition era, that's hidden.
Oh, nice.
And it's been completely preserved, including the names on the walls where anyone who drank there signed the wall. And he kept all that and used all the original wood. And I'm like, that gets me horny, man.
Preservation?
Like oh, yeah.
Dude, me too.
I'm a preservation slut, dude.
Yeah. I have a client right now working on a house on Miami.
I live on Miami.
Oh, you do? This is the east side of Miami, getting close to Jefferson. And it's completely gutted, but it's a Second Empire. There you go. Second Empire style home, and a lot in that area.
Explain what that is.
So actually, if you want a really good idea of what Second Empire is, go follow the Second Empire Strikes Back on YouTube. Nice. So it's a gentleman working on restoring a Second Empire home in here in St. Louis. Go to Lafayette Square. Everything you see there pretty much is within that realm. Soulard, you're going to see a ton of Second Empire. It has to deal a lot with fascia and brick choice and stone choice. Yeah. How things sit up, on I guess you would say stone foundation, and how those are arranged, and where the bricks actually start. And there's a lot that goes into it.
And brick in St. Louis is an interesting thing too, because after Hurricane Katrina, there was a city mandate we can't ship. We have red brick. One of the things I love about St. Louis is the brick gingerbreads. Then you go into the Northampton areas and you go into some of these. There's probably a name for those. That's what I call them.
No, they're called gingerbreads. That's actually their architectural term, colloquially, anyways. They are referred to as the gingerbreads. Yeah,
and they're great. But I got real snobbish on Zillow over the pandemic, where I'm like, you want $450,000 for this one bathroom gingerbread with
an
unfinished attic? Are you out of your frickin' mind? Who do these people think they are? The kitchen, and a lot of them are the problem you run into in St. Louis is a lot of one bathroom.
Yes.
With nowhere to build type situations,
and lack of closet space. We've changed the society now where we like closet space instead of armoires or big pieces of furniture.
And St. Louis loves basements.
Yeah.
You can't. I'm a mid-century modern guy, and it's kind of hard to find. There's a nice little neighborhood in Crestwood that I love on Liggett Drive, and it was that guy is the designer. His name is Liggett.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he built a bunch of mid-century moderns there on slabs, and they're very, very cool.
Yes, and there's a lot of slabs in University City as well. You'll find them on near Ruth Park, the golf course there, just south of there. There's a neighborhood where you find a lot of good slab mid-century moderns.
God, I love this shit. So for me, and it was interesting because St. Louis is famous for its brick. It'll never be. There's only so much of it. It's a specific type of red brick that you can't get. I don't know why. I don't know the history behind it.
Well, I mean, it's the clay. It's the clay in our ground, and it's how the Mississippi River and the Missouri River and where we meet, and how we just got a lot of fertile soil here, and how it interacts with the clay, and also it has weirdly a lot to deal with the caverns and the cave systems, and it keeps things moist because there's a great word for it.
Yeah.
And so it keeps the ground kind of saturated, so it has a lot to deal with it obviously has to deal with the ground and everything surrounding it, but
and that's just a cool thing. I think
it's the confluence, really. It's
like a city ordinance, I believe, that's if you tear down a brick structure, you can't ship that brick out.
Yeah, no, you can't.
It has to stay in St. Louis and be reused or discarded of. Because we shipped a bunch down to New Orleans for Katrina, and I believe that was the last time we shipped brick out of the city.
I'm fairly certain you're right. That is what I have heard as well. Don't quote me, but that is exactly what I've heard as well.
So I am.
We've got a lot of good tax breaks that help with the preservation as well of these red bricks.
Yeah, and you talk about that a lot on your channel, which I love.
Yeah.
About like ways to take advantage of like preservation can be, because I had a friend bought a house on Salina, and that's it's in a historical neighborhood. It's all you need to know if you're not familiar with St. Louis. And he found out after the fact all of these. The guy that was in there before him put in a driveway that wasn't allowed by city ordinance. And they were like, it's going to cost $25K, but you got to take this driveway out. And he's like, wait, I didn't put it in. And the guy had like you have to have wooden windows. Like in a historical district, you have to keep certain things, and he went to war with the city over it, the driveway part. And I think eventually they figured something out. But there's so many ways to like use preservation to your advantage, which is it's a good thing to do anyway. And then, like you said, there's lots of programs in place, and I'm sure that's that way in a lot of cities.
Oh yeah, and the really great thing about St. Louis is we have this space, right?
Yeah.
And I really hope we get back to a place, and we talk about this on the show a little bit, but I hope the city itself gets back to a place where we start building again and building with brick again. It's not affordable to do so, but we have so much space. We were built out to be 1 million people within the city limits, right?
Yeah.
We made it to 850 at our peak in like the 1950 census.
Yeah.
Now we're down to like 282 or something like that.
Within city limits. I feel like our generation's moving back to the city.
Yes, there are a lot of people moving back to the city. They're moving to the south side. There is a lot of restoration going on there, and there's a lot of new build going on there, and preservation happening there, and none of that's happening on the north side. We're losing a lot of what makes St. Louis on the north side. The north side used to have it had more density, and it has just been bulldozed. And picked up left and right by developers and people with lots of money and hedge funds that hold on to these properties for tax purposes and depreciation purposes. And it's sad, and they let them sit. But now we have some good laws being put in place that were voted on this past go around to penalize people for holding on to properties for too long.
That's excellent.
It's a long time coming. It needs to be way more than it is, but it's a step in the right direction. Right.
100%. Yeah. And it's, we have our problems as a city. You can look up the Del Mar Divide and redlining and all kinds of stuff like that from our past that are problematic. The Pruitt-Igoe project that was a colossal failure. But it was a good idea. It just was not executed well. But I feel like our city, is like every city. Like it has its city problems, but it's a good place, and it's an affordable place to live. It's like one of the most affordable small cities in America. Like a lot of people with entry-level jobs come here because you can actually live. We have a lot of free stuff too. Yeah,
that is one of our biggest, if not our biggest, selling point is the accessibility to free, quote unquote, options for your family.
100%.
Right?
Oh yeah,
our taxes go towards that, so we are paying for it, but like outside visitors, like I don't know why more people don't vacation in St. Louis.
Get on in here.
You've got free options left and right.
You got a family, and you want to go to the zoo for free. You want to go to one of the biggest parks in America, even though Tower Grove is better. I do agree with you on that. I know that is a hard stance you've taken.
There's just it's a lot of preservation still in Tower Grove. There's less preservation in Forest Park.
I played on a kickball team that was kicked out of Tower Grove.
That's where a lot of kickball happens.
We deserved it. We desered it.
Were you throwing bows?
We were. I mean, it got out of hand. There were a lot of suggestive names on the back of jerseys. There was. A guy would bring a margarita, like a hurricane machine from a New Orleans bar, and plug it into an extension cord. We were making hurricanes in the park. People were getting drunk, passing out. It was out of control at the time, and it has since cleaned up its act, and we're back in Tower Grove, baby.
Oh, good.
So we just needed you know what?
What's your team name?
We needed you.
I can do that. I can. I've got a.
It's called Big Balls Kickball League, so you can imagine some of the team names.
I can.
The Ball Busters and the things like that. So it was fine. We were just having fun, but I think it was just we became we were taking up too much space.
I feel like everybody
the
in that league.
The problem was scheduling. We needed a league commissioner like you. we needed a play-by-play guy to come in and
do
'cause he'd be
kickball
like,
play-by-play. We could do
That
that.
would be very fun.
Yeah, honestly, hit me up on that. Let's make that happen.
I would love to do that.
Play-ball-play, kickball, play-by-play.
We should
kickball.
go together and just offer our services to the kickball league.
This is it. This is the hype. This is where we're going to start the hype.
Man, this is the hype. We're each a color man. No one is the actual anchor.
No one's calling play-by-play.
We just keep throwing it back to each other for amusing, folksy stories.
I think that's the bit within the bit is that we never call the game. No one knows what's happening on the field at all times.
Well, that's the end of the game. We hear the beginning and the end. We hear the national anthem and us calling the end.
It's 12-4. What an absolute throttling. It's like, what happened?
So something I want to ask you about. So I am a renter always looking.
Sure.
Part of the reason I haven't bought a house in St. Louis is because I'm a stand-up comedian, and a lot of times my specific, before I took the gig in radio, my specific call, there's always New York and LA is a phone call away where you get a job as a writer. I put in writing packets for Saturday Night Live or for the Colbert Report, or I put in packets for Tonight Show or
Daily Show.
Yeah, Daily Show or somewhere, some of the LA shows, some of the written sitcoms and things like that.
Like after midnight. After midnight.
After midnight, and I had before it was canceled, I got a call back to write for the Detroiters, which I love.
Oh, you did?
The first Tim Robinson that was it won like a bunch of Emmys and got canceled because Comedy Central had a weird, like something would get popular, but Comedy Central was still operating on cable budgets and would not move to streaming for some reason. And once they couldn't pay their stars, they would just cancel shows.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the precursor to Ted Lasso, right? Like that was Jason Sudeikis, and was it Bill Lawrence as well?
I think so. And, honestly, that show is kind of what we're talking about. Like, that show was Tim Robinson's love letter to Detroit.
Dude, it's so funny you bring this up. I have, when that show came out, I was so peeved because I had
similar idea.
I had a concept I've written down. I have a Word doc of a show.
Yeah, there, brother.
Yeah, that is the Detroiters, Detroiters for St. Louis.
Yeah.
And like my background being in like sports broadcasting and sales and marketing was that myself and my best friend Bradley would be these characters that run a marketing firm. And theirs is an advertising firm, but still same things, right? As far as concept goes.
There's a lot of one-stop shops here.
Yeah, when it came out, I was like, this is way better than anything I could have thought of. But still.
The seed was, the seed was there.
Well,
edit out that T-burp and make a note.
Yeah.
Don't be, Zane, make a fucking note right now. That's coming out.
There you go. But, oh my God, what a show, dude. My wife and I just watched through it again. This past few weeks.
That's great. I rewatch it all the time.
It's also weirdly wholesome.
It is pretty wholesome, like the relationship. And it's also just like the small city. They're a small firm trying to make it. And the episode where they film in the Mirror store. Because I do a lot of commercial work, and I've been on a lot of commercial sets. And it can be like that sometimes, where it's like, you're trying to work with a client that's not used to being on television, but everybody wants to be in their commercials. Like, no one wants to hire actors. Whenever I write commercials, I do a lot of commercial writing, and I'll write, and I'll be like, hey, we'll hire a bunch of actors. It'll be super funny. And they're like, yeah, but Dale kind of wants to be in it. And I'm like, well, Dale's not an actor. We need to hire John Lemon.
Yes.
Get him up here.
Dale can't be on screen.
But we end up having to like shoehorn Dale into it, because Dale's the owner of the car wash or whatever.
Right.
But it was just kind of it lent itself well to guest stars and things like that. And it was a love letter to the city he was from. He started improv in Detroit, and like I always feel that way about St. Louis as a comic. This city made me.
Yeah.
I'm proud of this city. I don't ever feel. A lot of times LA and New York will look down there. Funny's funny. There's shitty comics in every city. There's great comics in every city. And we have a really good comedy scene here. We have a good arts scene that a lot of people don't know about.
It's so underrated.
We have like 3 or 4 clubs, and there's lots of really good arts happening in St. Louis that I feel don't get. It's kind of there's a Denver, there's St. Louis, Minneapolis. There are certain cities that I go to that I'm like, oh, these have thriving art scenes, but aren't necessarily industry friendly.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Minneapolis especially. Like Minneapolis, St. Louis, are places, St. Louis especially, that artists can take huge swings and strike out and not
learn to be artists.
Yeah, and not just go poor doing it, right? Like you can afford to make mistakes here. Right?
Yes, and you can make mistakes here, and also like there's a downside to being seen too early. Yeah, like you got
to work through it, man.
Yeah, that's what I hate as a stand-up, and I don't want to get on this tangent, but I'm like when I see guys posting open mic clips. They're searching for the fame online versus getting good at their craft. I'm like, man, these are going to come back to haunt you. And like, if somebody's going to see this and be like, oh, this is what this person's comedy is, and you may never shake that off because you didn't take time to learn your craft.
Yeah. I mean,
in cities like this, you can learn your craft because you can go out, find other collaborators, find people that are into what you're into, make mistakes together, learn, and grow.
That's the crowd interaction effect right now that's just all that's on TikTok and Instagram these days.
And I know that I'm a hypocrite, and we're both on there.
Yeah,
it's part of our careers, and it's been we're budding influencers according to our Instagram accounts. You're doing real well. I hate that term. You hate that term.
Yeah, the word influencer, like I understand.
Sucks.
I understand.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, I am influencing those in the city of St. Louis with what they look at and how they choose to go about doing things in St. Louis. I get that, but I don't really get paid a lot. I choose to turn down payment from people. I choose who to work with purposefully because I want to make the stuff that I want to make. I don't want somebody telling me what to do, and I stand by that a lot. Of course, I will take payment if my friends are like, hey. I know you're going to do this for us, but like we need to pay you, which is
you can Venmo David's payment to Rafe Williams at Venmo at Rafe Williams RAFE.
Yeah,
and I've had some. And here's my advice to you as a creator. Not that you need it. If you wrote it down, go make it because somebody else will in a couple years. I've had it happen. So the thing you talked about with the Detroiters, I've had happen so many times. I pitched the Righteous Gemstones to a company here in town. And I was like, okay, so there's a family of prosperity gospel, obnoxiously rich. The leader of the church he's a sexual deviant. He's a complete asshole behind the scenes, but he's a good speaker. And during a sermon, he's doing there's a church here, and I hope you don't go to it because this could get dicey, but there's a guy named David Crank.
Oh, yes.
And it's like he has like a big supermarket church, and he's on every night, and he's got like frosted tips and like relatable uncle energy, man. He's telling jokes like, when I first started dating Michelle, I had a Dodge Neon. You know why they call it a Neon? Because you got your knee on the door and the knee on the dash. It's a little car, y'all. It's little. And I'm just like, oh, man, this guy sucks. But, people eat it
fantastic.
up. And I'm sure he's a nice guy, whatever. I don't fucking know him. I don't care that much. But I went and pitched a show of like a family of, I go, here's the deal. There's a family. The guy's given a big, like, over-the-top Jacob's ladder, and he's climbing up a ladder and making an ass of himself, and he falls and hits his head, and he realizes heaven and hell are real. He's got to change his ways, but he realizes his family's all spoiled pieces of shit. His kids are bad, his wife's bad. And they were like, dude, this is a great idea, Rafe, but no one would ever take on the evangelical right like that. No one's taking that. And then 3 years later, Righteous Gemstones comes on HBO, and I'm like, not only did they do it, they used St. Louis's most beloved actor to fucking make it.
Yes, they did.
So I understand your pain, and my advice to everyone is if you have an idea and you love it, just go make it with your friends.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing now. We're finally making the stuff that we've written down and turning it into
it into
the show. And we're gonna make some more segments and pieces, and hopefully get into writing a show that's outside of the podcast as well, and keep it as local as possible. Because the Bradley and Colin, the two guys that run Fly North Theatricals, the musical theater company, that helps overarching produce the show. Like they're incredible writers. Some of the best in the city. Colin, from top to bottom, has written 4 original pieces of musical theater. And one of them's about the dude who invented leaded gasoline.
Yeah.
One of them's about a woman who here in St. Louis became one of the wealthiest people in America. Was a woman that
Schlafly?
It's called Madam, not Phyllis. No,
Not Phyllis.
not good old Phyllis Schlafly. Although Colin uses her name as a curse word in our show all the time. It's very funny. But she had a brothel on the north side and became one of the wealthiest human beings on the planet.
I bet.
And she was here in St. Louis and made a whole musical about it, which is like, whoa, those are two very interesting things to make musicals about.
It's hilarious.
But they're kind of like St. Louis and Midwest specific, but he's an incredible writer. So
Those are interesting. Those are I like small scale stories like that.
yeah, super funny too.
And honestly, man, we get caught in the world, and that was kind of what I wanted. The community building that you do with your show and that you do with your realtor business and historical preservation and all of those things. The reason I think that matters so much, and the reason I respect you and I wanted to have you on the show, we live, social media and access to the internet has thrust us into the era of global community to a point that sometimes I think we get lost in that world, especially, we just had an election year. We have a old president. And, and people are feeling it's very divisive out there. And like everyone's trying to do all of these, for lack of a better word, activism at a national level that's kind of beyond the scope or their grasp. When I think that it would serve people better to start on a smaller scale, and I'm a huge Kurt Vonnegut fan.
Yeah.
My favorite writers are big surprise. They all became very cynical and sad at the end of their careers, which is afraid what's going to happen to me. Like I read Mark Twain and Kurt Vonnegut in order. As a fan, and saw how bleak their viewpoints got by the end, and I was like, holy shit, is this where I'm headed? It's all fun and games now. Soon you'll come to my comedy show and I'll be like, it's all going down the toilet.
They went full Hemingway slowly.
Yes, slowly.
Hemingway just started out of the gate and just stayed depressed the whole time.
Yes. But I do think that you have to get involved on a local level. You have to invest in the people around you and your friends, because what you see on the internet's not real. The people shouting at each other online are minorities on each end that are controlling the narrative of everything that we're thinking about, everything that we're talking about, and those things are important. But I also think you can shrink those down to a small scale and do stuff if you build your community and you build people around you that are real conversations and real people and things that are tangible that you interact with every day. I honestly think that is a more effective model in world changing. And, part of city planning and part of historical preservation is world sculpting in a way.
Yeah.
Not to be I don't want to be too bravado about it, but
you're exactly right.
I think that that's true. And I think that every city needs more people that are nerding out over the things you nerd out over, dude. And caring about the things that you care about, and being able to present them, you're a good communicator and able to present them to the masses in an effective manner. So much respect for that.
There's a few things that really matter to us when it comes to the why behind our reasonings of talking about city planning and our love of public transit and freedom of movement, right? Like the freedom of movement is one of the most essential things out there. And, us having the Metrolink is nice, and us having the Metro bus system is nice. And hopefully this Green Line gets built. It might not with the current federal administration.
Yeah. Could have done without the trolley, though. Let's just say.
Yeah, there's another story.
For those of you unfamiliar with St. Louis, we built a real dumb fucking trolley. That's all you need to know. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really do anything. And it could have been really cool. But anyway.
It could have been a tram. Could have just been a regular tram that went through Forest Park and went down south. We don't have to get into it. Yeah. Anyways, but
still could be, technically.
Still could be. The line is there. The line is there. The things that we care about most is, when we talk about infrastructure, is the reason you build it this way is it's not about density is great. It's about why certain types of density and tram transit and freedom of movement does for people. It allows people to not have to pay $10,000 a year to own a car.
Right.
You know, it allows these people to have accessibilities to clean and fresh groceries. It allows people to have accessibility to their neighborhood, coffee shop or bar where they're going to see the same people and interact with every day. The world you build around you, in that infrastructure, if you want to, buildings, if you want to call it that, really does impact people more than you even know. And that's the baseline of what we talk about on the show.
And you work for, I live in South City, and you work for Garcia Properties.
Yes.
And one of those things that they've done is, I see things popping up. I see the pawn shops and prepaid mobile stores disappearing and businesses popping up. I see city renewal. I see things like that. And it takes companies that care about that kind of thing. Can I keep you for another 5 to 10 minutes?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and talk about some specific commercial things since we got into this and the company that you work for now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
And a couple of things that I'm very excited about preserving in our city. All right. We'll be back real quick with David after a word from our sponsor. And we're back, everybody. Welcome back to the number 2 show. I'm here with a very special guest. Renaissance man, realtor, sports broadcasting legend at for the fighting hot rods and
the good old hot rod days.
And
I don't think about them enough. That we had a way better logo back then. Now it's just a B and a G. And now, mind you, Bowling Green is known as BG. That's its nickname. But
sure,
come on, the old logos of minor leagues, like the 2000s logos of minor league baseball.
Come on,
class, clutch. I love good minor league logos.
Well, we got a minor league team down where I'm from, the Marion Miners.
The Miners,
and I love it.
Yeah, we play them all the time.
And dude, go down. That's a great minor league. Sports is where it's at. I used to go to Peoria Riverman hockey games. I used to go to
Chiefs games.
You go to these small, they need the business. We used to go to Peoria Riverman's games, and they'd let us put our bare asses up against the glass and moon people. I didn't know what was going on in the games, but they were like, these guys paid $5 a head, and they're drinking beer. Who cares? We were throwing squids out on the floor at inappropriate times. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening. And you can go to a Miners game with a family, and it doesn't cost you, No offense to the DeWitt family, but it ain't exactly cheap to take a family of 5 out to a Cardinals game. You're $400 or $500 deep on that transaction. You can go to
this year you might be able to afford some pretty cheap tickets, my friend.
You make $75 for going to a Cardinals game.
They'll pay you. They'll pay you to go fill the seats, man.
But a lot of those small, and that's, to me, that's like investment in community. That's small. That is an investment in a property. That makes people feel like, hey, here's something we have that we root for. We root for this small town wooden bat league that plays, in Marion, Illinois, which is a small town off of an interstate. And it's cool to see stuff like that popping up. But I want to talk to you. You work for Garcia Properties here in town. Now, every city probably has companies that reinvest and try to, give facelifts, long overdue facelifts to neighborhoods that used to be cool. Maybe they're lacking a little bit, but they're on the comeback.
Certainly, every city has somebody like.
I'm a huge fan. They bought a place called Southtown, which I loved, and they turned it into the Golden Hoosier. They opened a pizza place. It used to be a cell phone store. They're building restaurants, and they're building places for people to work and for people in that neighborhood to have jobs and be able to feed their families and afford themselves. And one of the big things in that neighborhood that I love, and I am so fucking glad, is Uncle Bill's Pancake House.
I was hoping you'd bring it up.
Oh, it's got
that place. That place is.
We're talking real estate,
of stories,
pancakes, and history.
Yeah, and murder.
Uncle Bill's could be a podcast in and of itself.
Yeah,
I may have you back for the Uncle Bill's podcast.
I'd love to talk about it. I can go deep in Uncle Bill's lore.
Give me the 3 minutes. So Uncle Bill's Pancake House, as a comedian, is so important to me. I'm going to tell the fans why it's important, then I want you to give me the history.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of comedians are weird folks. Okay, we finish. A lot of us can't eat till after we've done our business. We're on stage, we're sweating, we're nervous. You don't want a belly full of food. We get done at the club, it's midnight. Show's out. By the time we get paid, get out of the club, the headliner has a couple drinks, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. You want to sit down, have a meal, unwind, talk about jokes. Now it's time to pal around. At 1 a.m., post-pandemic, there ain't shit anywhere in the city other than the gramophone. God bless it. Every city should have a Greasy Spoon that's open 24 hours a day. A place that you never intend to go to but always wind up at. And Uncle Bill's for a long time was that. I took Dave Attell to Uncle Bill's, and they let him smoke inside, and it was the greatest day. He goes, I haven't smoked inside. He goes, I haven't smoked while eating a pancake in 10 years, and this is the greatest night of my life. And, Uncle Bill's one of those places, like it was great. It's got all that old wood.
Yeah.
It was a place where you could sit down with your friends at 2 o'clock in the morning, put some pancakes on top of the liquor you were drinking, and people on Sunday morning would go there after church. It was like, it was a neighborhood spot, and it unfortunately closed down, but you guys came in to rescue it. Now, a lot happened. I could give you Uncle Bill's recent history. Okay, somebody robbed the Taco Bell across the street, which is the worst Taco Bell in America on Kings Highway. Don't think I fucking forgot about you, Taco Bell on Kings Highway. You suck.
They even opened a new one.
Somebody
right down.
I go to that one
On Kings Highway, yeah.
I go to that one. I go all the way down to. Don't get me started, dude. I'll see a dude smoking a joint at the dumpster, being like, "We're out of everything. We're closed." And I go, "You're not closed. I can see you." Anyway, somebody robbed that Taco Bell on foot, walked across the street, robbed Uncle Bill's, and got away on foot.
I forgot about this. I heard this.
And that's how they scaled back their late night. And then someone drove a car through the front of Uncle Bill's in the middle of the day. Somebody drove a Mustang through the front of the building, and they didn't even shut down, dude. They just taped off the brick where it blew through the wall, and they just kept on serving. And that's the kind of place that you got to preserve.
Those are owners that you want.
That's the owners that you want.
We'll just leave the Mustang here as a centerpiece.
It's an old,
to remind you.
Yes, and what I'm hoping, and I've talked to some people. I know some folks. I know Jimmy at Golden Hoosier. I do shows there.
Nice.
And we had chatted. He's like, "Man, you brought this up on the air, and you came and talked to me personally. You're like, you guys need to buy this. We can't let Uncle Bill's become a cell phone store. We can't let Uncle Bill's. It is such a unique building. It is such a piece of St. Louis history, and every city should have this thing. And you guys are bringing it back, and I hope not a lot of changes are going to be made, but I want you to give me the history of Uncle Bill's in a nutshell."
So I'm not certain if they're going to make it 24 hours. I'm not certain. That's something they're deciding.
They're going to do late night, I heard.
They'll do late night, but I'm not certain about the 24 hours. The economics of 24 hours in
post-pandemic
this world is near to impossible.
That's part of the problem.
It's really business structure post-pandemic that nobody really can do.
Right.
But they're going to do their best, right? They're going to keep it late night for sure. So the gentleman who started Uncle Bill's Pancake House, it was not called Uncle Bill's Pancake House until 1961. It started in 1937 or something like that. I need to look back on my dates. But the guy who started it started the Cheshire Inn, the Cheshire Tavern.
Yes.
And built this as a lounge dinner restaurant, and built this Germanic tavern with...
It's kind of like a Germanic beer hall.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's why it is Germanic, right? You go in there, you've got a huge fireplace, which the second owner of the establishment, technically he's the third owner, is the actual Uncle Bill. The first Bill, also there was multiple Bills throughout this whole...
Several Bills.
There are technically 3 owners of the establishment who have all been called Bill. One of them is William, but still.
That's a Bill to me.
That's a Bill. The second one called...
That's a Bill that thinks he's better than us.
But he's exactly not. Right. It's like, William, come on. Are you trying to be a prince here? No one's a prince in this city. But the second one called it the fireplace because, right. I mean, the centerpiece of that
giant
whole
fireplace
building is
in the middle of
huge. It's massive.
Big, old, stinky wood walls. I love it.
Yes. And they ran that for quite some time. There was the person that bought it after them got caught for like murdering his wife or murdering his. It was something.
Oh, we didn't know you were on a true crime podcast, did you? Well, now you are.
There's so many great things about this building.
It's steeped in mystery.
But it's been open since 1937. Someone's
Crazy.
had to have been murdered, right?
Yeah, that's true. But the ownership itself was involved in.
Yeah.
There was There was an owner that was a murdered wife.
Yeah. So the owner of that establishment right before the William
Right.
murdered his wife. That's what I have been told
And
through the history.
Through the history, lost that
Yes.
to another bill.
Yes.
Who to the third bill, who it was aptly named after, correct?
The second bill was named after.
And is this the second bill? Wife drowns?
Yes.
Okay.
The second Bill's wife drowned in the backyard pool during a party.
After he passed away.
After he passed
So
away.
there's no murder on the table for this bill.
No, this was like 4 or 5 years after he passed.
And that is how it changed hands the third time.
To William Choi, which was the
Current.
previous owners, the
Yes.
current owners. They owned for 40 years or so. Yeah.
Great guy.
Yes.
Met him several times. Awesome dude.
Yes. Like great people. And then the last few years, they couldn't keep up with it. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
pandemic
the pandemic did not
really killed it.
Yeah.
And it became grimy and really dirty. And you want it to be a little dirty, right? You want it to be a divey, but you don't want it to.
I want it to keep its diviness a little bit.
You don't want cockroaches walking over your foot while you're eating.
No, you don't want that.
So they're definitely going to make it cleaner. I know. So Ivan and Berto Garcia are kind of spearheading it.
Yeah.
And they want to make some cleaner options and some healthier options for
Not too many.
The world wants that, but they're definitely going to have some disgustingly
sloppy
good
biscuits
options.
and gravy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
still want the chili to immediately give me diarrhea.
They're gonna make sure that the entire swath of people in there are going to have their druthers.
And I think that's important, man. I mean, you agree, right? Every city I go to, that's what other comics, I'm like, take me to your Skyline, Cincinnati. Yes. Take me to your Stinky. Take me to the place where Hep C's 1% on the table.
Yeah.
And I want it.
It's an option on the menu.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you guys are bringing it back.
Me too, man.
I'm glad that it ended up in good hands and somebody that wants to preserve it. And, I keep coming back to this theme in the pod, but some things, and it's one of those things you couldn't move it to another building. It would die. There's certain things, certain businesses that it lives in the space it lives in. And there's something about that. It's almost like, even from a business or commercial standpoint, it's a place that can be haunted in a good way. Like Uncle Bill's is Uncle Bill's. It would be haunted by the spirit of Bill until you tore it to the ground. You couldn't turn it in. Couldn't make it a car dealership. It wouldn't work.
No.
It has to remain. There has to be some preservation for it to keep its integrity. And if you moved Uncle Bill's business model out of that building, it would never work anywhere else.
Yeah, you would
It's almost
never.
like a marriage of space and time, and to me, that's what I get so interested in architecture about. It is this marriage of space and time, when homes are built, how they were built for the time they were built in. And like, I hate new homes. I hate new builds, man. There's like a weird, I'm not going to call the company out, but there's like a weird section like in the Gate District where they built all these weird subdivision houses in the middle of all this brick, and it looks like shit, and it's weird, and it doesn't look good, and
it does not belong in the city limits of St. Louis.
It does not. And I
agree with you.
And the McMansions that I go to, when I go out to the burbs, I'm like, they're just void of spirit and personality. It's like a uncanny valley of like, if it's like a body without a soul.
Yeah, when you build without character, there's no character that's going to live in it.
I agree. And Agreeable Gray and Pergo are the death. Stop it.
You're right. Well, if
you're doing rentals, fine. But if you're don't put down Pergo and paint the walls gray.
That's what's so great about.
We learned nothing from Shiplap.
No, nothing from Shiplap. Oh my God, the years of Shiplap are gone. Thank God.
Trying to erase them from history.
That's the middle school moment where like you dyed your hair pink and you don't want to look back on that, right?
Exactly. So what are your? I personally when attention to detail is given to the ceilings and the lighting and creating an ambiance in the home, I slut out for that.
Yeah.
What gets you horny? Ooh. Like when you walk into a house, what are some, obviously everybody wants like, oh, the primary's big. Oh, primary bath. Everybody knows that. I'm saying, what are the little details of a home that when David Lemon walks in, he's like, this is the good stuff.
Oh yeah. So the first thing I immediately look for when walking into, let's just interior of a home, is have the baseboards, have the door trims, have the staircase been whitewashed and painted white. And there is nothing that pisses me off more than
painted wood,
whitewashing painted wood. Is just the natural wood finish. Like stain it, do whatever you want with it, but
don't
like keep a wood finish at least. I don't care what you do in like the coloring or stylized version of your wood. Keep it wood. Holy cow. Or like painted mantles. Ugh. I can't. That's going to come back. That's already back. Luckily in designer trends, we're finally
like
moving back.
Brick,
gray
or white.
Painted brick pisses me off almost more.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to remove paint from brick, dude. That's the one thing that when I see that, I'm like, okay, this is a real home. Like I feel very comfortable. It's also warm. It's inviting. Like you don't feel sterile, you know?
If I look up at the ceiling and I see some woodwork, some wood rafters, or even some, I don't, what's it called when it's like recessed? It's a specific thing.
Oh, you're talking about,
like with the recessed wood.
It starts with a C.
Somebody will put it in the comments.
It starts with the C, and I'm blanking right now for some reason.
It's all right. When I see that kind of work, I see like some nice wood.
Are you specifically talking about like millwork? Just in general?
Yeah, millwork in general, dude. When I see a really some craftsmanship went into the staircase, and it's still that exposed wood on brick. I'm a big mid-century modern guy. I love that style. I like American Gothic. Those are my two big style of homes. I like Victorian sometimes, but I feel a little claustrophobic in some Victorian homes because I'm a big guy, and I'm like, these 10-foot by 10-foot. I love the woodwork, but I like a little bit of an open floor plan. So I'm a contradiction, all right? I'm a mystery sometimes.
Yeah, but you're from like small town America too, though, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've got your Americana aspect, you still have a lot of Victorian like country houses.
Right. I love it, like
that are
a
out
farmhouse,
there. Yeah, there's a lot of Victorian farmhouses out there.
Is there a style of home you prefer?
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, oh my God. So here's the thing. Nobody's really asked me this question ever. No one's like, what is your favorite type of architecture?
Yeah. Welcome to the best podcast.
Thanks. I really do. Here, it's gonna sound simple, but there is something really beautiful about the bungalows in St. Louis.
Okay.
They are.
I ain't hating on your bungalow.
So it's utilitarian. Yeah. I think that's what I like about it. It's the layout of the home. You enter into a large living space, and it's lots of light, very inviting, very warm. It's split in two, right? So you've got your beds on this side and your bath on this side, and then you've got your living space on this side.
Right.
And it makes sense to me. It's almost like apartment living, just in 1,000 square feet, 1,100, 1,200 square foot space. Sure. And these are the gingerbread houses that we're talking about.
Yes, I love
bungalows.
Those are also they're on my list for St. Louis homes.
They're so each one's unique too. Like the exterior, it's a lot of craftsmanship and masonry work into it that you can make it your own.
Yes,
right?
I love the masonry of the gingerbread because it has the Hobbit door. It has the rounded hearth, like you walk in and I'm like, oh, this is the front door of a home can do it for me, dude. If you just put a lazy, the front door it's like rounded. Sometimes it's squared off, or it's like it's an odd shape, and you feel like you're walking into something that was built by hand, built by a master, and that's how it starts.
Yes. It does start with the wooden door that weighs 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
You open it and you feel like, oh, somebody carved this from a tree.
Yes.
It's really great. And now you open a door and it feels like
someone's grandpa
a kid could
carved
slam
this
it.
from a tree struck by lightning, like the bat and the natural. And
Yes.
that's the door to your home, and that's the door I trust to keep my family safe.
If a kid can open my door, I don't want to live in it.
No, I certainly don't want it if it's just like an aluminum, hollow door where I can, get out of here. I don't even want to talk to you. That's an interesting thing. So you're a bungalow man.
It's they're approachable. Like anybody can live in it. It can be a forever home. It can be an entry level home. It can be a retiree home. It's so versatile. And then you've got the storage up top that you can turn into another living space if you want. You can have little eaves.
How do you
off
deal?
of there?
How do you deal with the one bathroom problem in those?
That is a problem, right?
It is, because if you get a second, it's almost always not to say half-assed, but like it's a basement bathroom that you're like, technically, yes, it's a bathroom, but like it's not something that's going to be highly trafficked. You don't get the benefit of like the primary bathroom that you can live like a slob in without company having to see it.
Certainly. I there's something ingrained in my brain that loves the idea of just one bathroom, though. If on the second level, a lot of people are building out eaves and building out on the second floor a little bit higher and out. Okay. And usually that's where you're going to put the second floor bathroom. It's not going to be as tall. So if you're like 6'3" and above, it might be a little bit difficult for you. These bungalows probably aren't for you.
Yeah.
People are like taller and taller. So it becomes a little bit more difficult, but I still think I get a lot of flack for saying this, that I'm okay with one bathroom in these homes, but
I get it.
To each their own.
Yeah. I mean, I've had my eyeballs on one of your listings, this Itasca Street one. I'm not going to get into it, but it's pretty sweet looking. I've been Zillow porning.
Yeah.
And I saw that it was one of yours.
Yes. Yeah, we're listed right now.
I'm going to ask you one final quick question. It's very St. Louis centric, and then we're going to plug your stuff. I'm going to get you out of here because you've been generous with your time.
Thank you, man.
The Armory.
Ooh.
And the City Winery.
Ooh.
Or what's that
The Foundry?
called? The Foundry. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had a restoration project in a neighborhood here called The Foundry. They put in a bunch of cool stuff. They put in a city winery. There's a bunch of small boutique stores. It was a very cool thing. And then someone went and bought an old National Guard armory. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about commercial restoration. I want to know, because we have an opinion on the number one show, the Rizzuto show, the companion piece to this show. When they built the armory, it was like an indoor space. Every city has these, okay? It's one of those, like, oh, my God, giant Jenga.
Yeah.
Everyone's got, every city I go to, usually a comedy club is somewhere near it. And it's just a place for people to go and be social. But I think that is important for community building. I think having places where you can go out and have, the up-downs and the big arcades and where people actually go out and interact with each other and play, like, silly table games. Or it's like human lawn darts. That's crazy.
Yes.
And, you could have events there and things. And it was a great space. It was a great use of that space. But I feel like they really missed an opportunity being on opposite sides of an interstate to not connect those properties in a way. To build some sort of, whether it's a walkway or a thoroughfare or a tram or something.
You're hitting the nail on the head here.
Could have connected those two properties so that they were part, instead of feeling like two standalone projects, it started to feel like we were building a village in that part of town. I'd like to know, as a realtor, if somebody's got your eye on those type of things, your thoughts on that. Yeah,
thank you for asking me this question. I have a million thoughts about this. So back in 2013, I think it was, maybe between 2013 and 2016, there was a walkway that crossed on Spring from the north side of 40 to the south side by the Armory.
Okay,
there was a walkway.
There was a connective walkway between these two properties.
It went underneath the top highway level and the bottom highway level going eastbound. So it has existed, but it was crumbling infrastructure. It needed to be replaced, so they just tore it down. And it was not part of the build-out plans of the Foundry. It was not part of the build out plans of the Armory. They wanted it, but it had a lot to deal with the Board of Aldermen as well. It got back and forth between there's committees there that didn't agree on where it should go again and who was going to be funding it. And now Great Rivers Greenway and the city are getting involved, and some private ownership as well to build another walkway.
Great.
To connect them. But it will also connect to the Grand Metrolink stop.
Great.
As well. So, but the funny thing is they announced this last year and they were like, yeah, we're not going to be done with it till 2027 or 28. Okay. And we're like, dude, it's a freaking bridge. It's a footbridge. Like, I understand.
It's a 3-month project.
Then here's the real kicker. We pay so many consulting firms that push it out and push it out and push it out. We're paying these consulting firms who don't even live here to tell us how to build this bridge.
Right.
And we can keep it in-house, save so much money for building this bridge and do it so much faster in like a year to a year and a half instead of 3 years. Like, do it in half the time.
Right.
It's a huge issue.
And in the meantime, one of the properties is closed.
Yeah,
the Armory didn't make it. So now we have a giant vacant property.
Yes.
Where if we'd have just built this through bridge, we may not be now looking for a new tenant to take over that property and turn it into something.
Absolutely. COVID killed a lot of the ideas of what the Armory was. They had pretty broad ideas, and
I know it wasn't just that. There were some other things that went wrong with that property, but
they lost a lot of money from investors and some bad decision making from on Green Street's side from a couple individuals at Green Street. I'm not going to blame all of Green Street. It was a few individuals who made like bad investments and bad decisions there. I love that you brought up the whole bit about every city has cornhole and lawn darts and all these things.
Just like Westport Social. Like the Funny Bone's been out in Westport forever, and it literally became a zombie like ghost town. Everything was closed. There was like one lids that hung on forever, a public radio station in the Funny Bone, and it was decrepit and going out. And then like Worldwide Tech moved in, and then they built Westport Social, which is exactly this giant Connect 4. That's just crazy. And then the Rawlings Museum.
Papa Shot. Wow, what is this, Chuck E. Cheese for adults?
Right. And now it's back, baby.
Dude, there's a comedian, Chris Fleming. Do you know him?
I know the name.
So he has a bit about if you can play cornhole comfortably, you're on the side of the oppressor.
I would agree with that.
Such a good line. I love that bit. But yeah, I really did not appreciate the full build out with the adult playground aspect of it. I love the idea of bringing concerts back to it.
Yep.
They needed to invest a little bit more fully in that and taken what this private investment did out at the factory and put some money into that. Now, I know those are completely different commercial groups doing those work, mind you. And connected to like Live Nation and like Ticketmaster, and they have relationships there at the factory to do that. But yeah, we should have like held sporting events and the traveling sporting events in there. Like TGL is looking for a new location, right? TGL would be perfect in there, dude. And you could build it out for different things.
Yeah.
It's so malleable. You should have built it out to be malleable. But most importantly was that they had plans to build density right there and build 2 like 14-story, I believe, residential towers right there in where the parking lot is for the Armory. And they chose to forego that first to build into the Armory. And man, if you build density around that place survives.
I agree.
And you build that connection between the Foundry and everything that's good about the Foundry, which there are plenty of good things about the Foundry. I think it's going to survive. I think it's going to stay around for quite a while, especially when they get the Great Rivers Greenway going through there. But residential housing around there and Prospect Yards and surrounding the Grand Metrolink stop.
Yep.
That's how you're going to do it. It's pretty simple.
I mean, so they did that to a small degree down a little bit further down, like Grand and Chodo, where they built a little Target, but it's a they built and there's downsides to that in the Grove. They put up some of those buildings are kind of you get gentrification, you start pricing out people that have lived there. There needs to be a good balance with those things, but you also have to if you want property values to go up and you want people to be in the city, like you have to there has to be an ebb and flow of revitalization, but also taking into account people who've lived there and people who, without, gentrifying and forcing those folks out.
Yeah. I mean, the preservation of Mill Creek Valley is like not something, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
The highway and the Expansion Act, Eisenhower just barreled through it, leveled homes, just pushing black communities out.
Right.
To build a highway and to build commercial and all these things. And same thing happened in Brentwood with the construction of Brentwood Promenade.
Sure.
And
you live in Brentwood.
I do live in Brentwood.
And the Brentwood Promenade is an insane. Whoever designed that is in the seventh circle of hell.
Oh yeah, it gets way like as far as shopping center goes. As far as like shopping centers go, it's pretty standard.
And dude, I live in the city, man, and I know that you kind of live outside the city now. I want to move back, and I'm like, look.
Yep.
Does my catalytic converter get stolen once a year? Yeah, it does. That's the cost of doing business. Do I say I'm going to move every time it happens? Yeah, I do. But do I ever do it? No, I don't. And there's a little neighbor.
You kind of like the dog and cat of it,
Yeah, and I had a friend whose relationship literally hung in the balance of he's big time city renewal guy, didn't want to move out of the city and sell out. She had a kid, wanted to be in the good school district, county, city. Couldn't agree on it, almost ended their engagement over it. And I'm like,
it's so weird that exists, doesn't it?
Along came the DeMunn neighborhood. There's one little neighborhood in St. Louis that's technically in the city limits, but you still are in like a nice, rich school district.
Yeah.
And it saved his marriage. So, like, these things are important. The neighborhoods and the revitalization and all these things are important. David, I don't want to keep you much longer, man.
You're good, man.
You got to get the hell out of here.
These conversations I can have all the time.
Me too. I could sit here and talk to you for another hour easily. And I'll have you back if you want to come back anytime. Maybe we can get into the dark, detailed history of Uncle Bill's Pancake House when it reopens. But right now, hit them with everything, man. Your socials, where they can find you, plug whatever you got, whatever you want to plug, brother.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the Overarching Show, we'll start with that. You can find on YouTube, Overarching ST Lewis, on Instagram at Overarching ST Lewis, TikTok at Overarching ST Lewis. My personal page is at David Lemon Realtor on Instagram. But yeah, watch the show. It's about St. Louis arts, business, culture development.
Yep. And a lot of our listenership is here. So, like, if you live in the city of St. Louis, man, this is something you should be imbibing on a daily basis.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We're going to have some big names on the show this year, so we're really excited.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How big?
About as big as they get in St. Louis, actually.
Oh, so I should be jealous then.
You should.
Take out all that stuff at the end. Zane, put a note. Take out all that plugging at the end.
We'll bring you on one of these days, man. We'll have you.
Oh, yeah, the real big names.
You're a big name in the city, man. Don't pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself, man. You're a good name.
I got to hug Ozzie Smith last year, and it changed my life, dude. I felt like I was hugging my imaginary friend in real life. He came into the show, and I literally cried on the air.
You became a wizard through osmosis.
I get it, and I did a backflip, and then immediately blew out both of my knees.
But you landed it, though.
I did land it. Big thanks to David Lemon. Check him out. Follow him on all the things he said. We'll put him down in the details of the YouTube and the podcast description on Spotify. And we'll be back to wrap this thing up. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Rafe.
All right. Well, there's another episode of the number 2 show in the can, pun intended. I had a great time today. Riz had the day off, but I had my hands full with David Lemon. Great dude. Awesome guy. Check out all of the things he's doing on Instagram. We talked a lot about city planning. We talked a lot about architecture, community building, why it's important to every small city and town in America to get involved at the community level and make sure that we are building communities close to home. And that the shit you see online is not real, people. Don't pay attention to the people shouting in Facebook comments. Pay attention to your neighbors. How can you enrich each other's lives? How can you build up your communities to make them nicer, make your property values go up, and make yourself feel good about the world that you actually live in? Not online, the actual world you live in. Big thanks to David for coming on. And look, if you enjoy the podcast, okay? If you enjoy the podcast, help me out. Like and subscribe and share. Leave a positive review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. It actually does help. I know that everyone's like, no one actually cares about that. It actually does help. I don't have a genre, okay? I'm the only talk show from a toilet, and I pride myself in that, but I'm not true crime, okay? I'm not a podcast about cooking. All right? I'm a podcast about pooping and talking about important stuff. So if you like it and you enjoy what we do here, I want to grow the audience so I can keep doing it. So like and subscribe, tell a friend, share it. If I share a clip, share it on your Instagram. Be like, hey, check out this pod. Those things are helpful to me. Leave a comment here on YouTube. Leave a comment on Spotify, wherever you're at. I really do appreciate it. That's enough hawking comments, likes, and shares. Until next time, I'm your host, Rafe Williams. This has been another episode of the Number 2 Show. And always, and I do mean always, white front to back.